Adam is the CEO and founder of Faraday Bikes. If you aren't familiar with Faraday, Faraday is a locally grown e-bike brand. They're based in San Francisco. They're based in Soma. Always have been, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, from day one.
And Faraday is, like all things in the e-bike world, there's so much changing, so much growth, so much innovation, and Faraday is part of that in that they are a new company. I guess you could call it a startup still, right? Sort of?
I think so. I call it a startup, yeah.
And so we're going to talk about the history of the brand and learn more about Faraday. So thank you for joining us. So, Adam.
Brett.
So maybe you can just tell us, well, first off, from the audience, who's tried a Faraday bike? Well, if you haven't...
Everyone has to promise to try a Faraday today.
Yeah, if you're going to listen...
Ready? I see thumbs up. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone at the end of the day will answer yes to that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially after hearing this conversation, you're going to just like want to go over there and try these bikes.
The bikes are way more interesting than me, so that's where you want to be.
But this gives you the context, so when you're sitting on the bike, you'll say, I know this bike.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
So, Adam, can you tell us about what's I guess, first off, what's your history, and then I guess that dovetails with what the history of Faraday is, right?
Yeah, it does. So, Faraday, I think Faraday has we have a great story. I mean, I love telling it.
A little closer.
A little closer?
Yeah,
okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
I never know if I'm eating the mic.
You don't have to worry about eating the mic.
Okay. So I'm an engineer and a designer. Have done that my whole life. And I'm a bike nerd. I've always kind of been a bike nerd and ridden bikes and built bikes. And about, 6 years ago, I was working at IDEO, a big design firm here in the Bay. And we had a chance to build a bike for a bike contest to kind of reinvent the modern bicycle, kind of with the idea of getting more people riding bikes. So we said, all right, well, what would it take to get more people on a bike for transportation, getting to work? And we saw like electric as this like fringe little category out there that back in 2011 was kind of weird and you know, promising, but really not very visible in the US. And we test rode a bunch of e-bikes, we tried them out, and we kind of came away with the feeling that by and large they were heavy, they were clunky, they didn't feel like bikes, and so we were this group of folks who really loved bikes, and it felt like the electric was taking away everything we loved from the bike rather than enhancing it. And so we had this kind of simple premise that was like, well, could we enhance it? And that led to building the first Faraday bike ever. Which, fun fact, is now in the permanent collection of the Chicago Museum of Science, which is kind of cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Why Chicago?
They snapped it up first. They
just wanted it.
They were on it.
They're like, give me this bike.
They just got it. No, they did a really cool exhibition on the past and future of bikes, and so they were like, oh, well, this feels like it fits in.
Do you have a second one that might be able to go to like SF MoMA or something?
It's in the closet, and it's like deconstructed under a pile of tires in our closet. But one day we'll brush it off. So we did that, and that really, I think at that point, I had been excited about this idea. I'd been putting a lot of effort into it, and I think the validation that we saw from people's response was kind of a sign that there was something there. And so that kicked off a journey of leaving IDEO, spinning up the company, putting it on Kickstarter. We were back in the early days of Kickstarter when it was still kind of a crazy idea that people would give you money for something that you may or may not eventually give to them in return. We kickstarted Faraday and launched the brand, and that's kind of set us off on this journey. And it's been a fun ride.
So when did the Kickstarter campaign begin?
Kickstarter was in 2012. So we launched the Portour, which is sort of our flagship bike back then.
And fun fact, the Faraday Portour, one of the launch parties was at the New Wheel.
Yeah?
It was at the New Wheel in San Francisco. So we have two stores, if you're not familiar. We have this store here, which opened 2 years ago. We have another store in San Francisco, which opened like 7 years ago. And so the Faraday was one of the first parties we threw.
Well, and so that was like that. Our journey has been fun together because I think as we've been navigating the world of the e-bike, manufacturing and design side, you get to be navigating the kind of the retail side. And I like to think that we've both been at the front edge of kind of pushing the envelope and doing it in new and interesting ways. So
the bleeding edge.
The bleeding edge. Sometimes literally bleeding. But yeah, so that was kind of fun. We were this fledgling brand, and you guys were this kind of promising up-and-coming retailer, and it was fun to kind of even way back in the day then have those things.
It's crazy that it's been that long.
And we love these guys so much that we went back to Kickstarter in 2016, right?
I think so.
For our second bike, our step-through, and we named it the Cortland in honor of
our shop is on
their
Cortland.
shop. So if you didn't know that, that's why we named the bike the Cortland.
Fun fact.
Fun fact.
And also, Adam lives in Bernal Heights. You still live in Bernal Heights, right? Oh, you moved?
I moved, yeah.
What?
Sorry.
Where'd you move to?
Tenderloin?
That's okay. So, well, Adam did live in Bernal Heights, which is where our store is. So you kickstarted the bike, huge success, and then you started signing up deals. You got a lot of interest from dealers too.
We did, yeah. So we 2012 kickstarted. 2014 shipped the first batch of bikes. The first batch was built in Portland, Oregon, and California. Kind of a unique experience of building bikes here. Actually realized that we could frankly build an even better bike going to Taiwan and working with really great suppliers there. So put a lot of effort into building that supply chain, and then began kind of navigating the world of starting to work with great retailers who were kind of at the forefront of selling e-bikes, which, I mean, you probably know back then was far fewer. And so
there was far fewer options too. So I mean, for a retailer to get into e-bikes, when we started, it was like we had one model 8 years ago, and that was really the only model that we found that was like meet the criteria. And then Faraday came along, and this is like, that's when things started getting even more interesting. Because I remember at the opening party, we had all these like hip young people at the Faraday, and we're like, what is this?
Like, oh, these people will buy bikes? What?
They're interested in e-bikes? But I mean, going back even further, we met at Interbike.
Yeah.
When Faraday was just an idea. So yeah, this has been a long-term collaboration and discussion and talking about the future of e-bikes.
And we were here at the launch of this location a couple years back, which is great. I think the crowd is even bigger today, which is cool to see. So, But yeah, I mean, it's been. So I feel like in some ways we've both been on the curve of this, and it blows me away, to be honest, to see just like the proliferation of products and options and customers too. I mean, it's really like, I 5 years ago, it was really hard to spot an e-bike on the street in San Francisco. Yeah. And now it's a half a dozen a day with new wheel stickers on them. So good on you guys.
Either that or jump bikes.
Or jump bikes, yeah. What do you think? So what do you think of that phenomenon? Because that's been really interesting for us to watch.
I think it's so far the ability to get more people on e-bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, that has actually everything about the new wheel in San Francisco has just skyrocketed in the last few months since jump bikes.
Nice.
There's way more awareness. When people come in, they're not like, this is not the first time on an e-bike. They've already ridden the bike share electric bikes, which are actually quite good.
Yeah, they are.
And so their experience is actually good. They know what a good e-bike feels like.
Yep.
And so it's at this moment, it's totally helping us. Who knows where it goes? I think that's going to be an interesting discussion about the future of e-bikes. I think bike share is definitely here to stay, and it's only going to grow. But I think it's going to complement. I think from what I can see, it's going to complement. There's going to be some people that really works and fits in their lives, and there's going to be some people that want to own an electric bike, and that fits in their lives, and everyone's going to be knowing about electric bikes, so that's going to grow the pie exponentially.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're at a place with e-bikes now where the barrier is kind of the thing. It's the barrier of just the understanding of kind of how it works and what it can do for you, of how awesome it is to have something like this in your life. Yeah. And I think that jump can be a great part of just getting people's head around that.
Yeah. No, that's what we've seen. So tell us recent history of Faraday.
Recent history. So we. So 2014 on, started selling bikes, signing up the best retailers we could find around the country. And then at the end of 2016, as we were starting to think about kind of how to keep pace with that pretty frantic growth curve, had the chance to start talking with the folks from Pawn Holdings, which is the kind of the parent company that owns a number of the brands here. And we're able to join that group of brands, which has been just a great thing all around for us. Being part of a bigger, more stable family with a lot of resources has helped us do more fun stuff on the design side. I think better support our retailers, hopefully. We think it's a pretty integral part of the way forward, so that's been really fun.
So if there's two things I think for the audience to understand. One is we talked about Taiwan briefly. We get the question all the time, why are bikes not made in the US more? And it's a good question. The US basically lost its bicycle manufacturing at the turn, in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yep.
And I don't know all the details about how that happened, but it happened. And Taiwan really decided they wanted to be the center of bicycle manufacturing. And some people think of Taiwan as as China, I guess you could say, in a way. And it is very different. The Taiwan, the production costs and everything are just the same as it would be in the United States, if not a little bit more. It's just they have all the resources to build. So they have almost every frame made in the bicycle industry. Every frame is made in Taiwan. And then assembly, they have huge manufacturing in Taiwan. And the quality is really high. So when you see a bike that's made in Taiwan, that's not the same as a bike made in China.
No, yeah, and this is just like a subtle little detail, but when you go ride your Faraday later on, take a look at the welds on the. So we have a steel frame, and I mean it's borderline artisan quality welding. I'm a sort of an amateur welder, and I weld like super glue. I mean it's just a hack, and these guys are just fantastic. So
the skill required to do this is actually
it's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
and you need that expertise. And basically the world decided Taiwan decided we want to be that place.
Decided, yeah.
And the world said basically okay at this point. Things are changing all the time. Now on the Pawn topic, so yeah. Pawn started out as a bike shop, right?
Many years ago, yeah.
So they're almost 100-year-old company.
I think 100 plus, yeah.
Yeah, and they started as a bike shop in the Netherlands, and then they got into car distribution, and so they were the distributor for Volkswagen, and that grew and grew and grew, and now it's the largest private company in the Netherlands, and they do all sorts of things. It's still car distribution, but they have a huge focus on bicycles, but specifically electric bicycles. So
what's cool about this is Pawn is this giant holding company. They've been a huge importer for, like you said, Volkswagen, all throughout the Benelux. It's a giant business for them. So they're a transportation company fundamentally, right? And I think what I love about these guys is they look at the future and they think, where is transportation going? What is this going to look like in 10, 15 years? And the answer for them is bikes and e-bikes. So they made a pretty big decision to kind of invest in that, build a portfolio of brands like Kalkoff, Gazelle, Focus, and now Faraday. So it's fun to be part of a group that's really thinking like kind of big and scary and exciting about the future of mobility.
Yeah. So it kind of, I think that's interesting in that it shows that this is serious business. Sometimes means that can be problematic sometimes, but it can also be very interesting in terms of what the future holds. So if serious business people are saying this is something that we want to invest in, there's probably something to that.
Am I not a serious business person?
Oh yeah, but am I? I don't know.
I don't go that serious.
We're just bike guys, I guess. But anyway, so that's the context of Pawn, and that's the context of Faraday. So now Faraday has these extra resources. They have people that are really knowledgeable about finance and logistics. What does that allow Faraday to do, and where is that bringing Faraday for the future?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I think a number of things, right? We're certainly excited about building new great product, and hopefully new great product that continues our sort of our history of thinking differently, right, than the market. So our auxiliary battery is a cool example. It's a product we're going to start shipping in a couple of months that you can add to our bikes and double the range on the bike, and it's the kind of thing that we've worked on for ages, and now finally have the resources to bring to market, and it's just like beyond exciting and cool. So that kind of stuff, we'll do more of that. We'll keep doing that, and we're all incredibly excited about that. I want to figure out how to support retail and make retail better. And so it's funny, you guys are the retailer that we don't have to talk to about this, because you guys are amazing at this. I want to suck everything out of your brain that you guys do so well, and sort of spread that out to the rest of the United States that is like, excited about electric bikes, but hasn't quite gotten it around inside. Davey from G&O is out here as well, another guy who's doing just awesome stuff on e-bike retail. I think the next hurdle for me in e-bikes isn't, we've got great products out here. I think the next hurdle for me is how do we get those in front of people? How do we get them on them? How do we lower those barriers? How do we make it kind of an obvious and easy decision to make this part of your life?
It's funny because our problem has always been we felt like we could sell this if we only had the product for a long time, and not just the bikes, but the supply. We often ran out of bikes halfway through a year. Things are starting to turn a corner. So we kind of weathered a lot of weirdness for a long time, and now things are starting, and we were willing to do it because we were young and whatever, it's either that or something else.
We're still young,
but now I think the future is bright in that it's, if you see this opportunity and you see so much great product and you see that it's a labor of love, but you can make a living at it, then you can get really interesting people involved in the retail side. And the retail side is like a lot of retail that now we're getting into a different topic, but what we say a lot of retail is like retailers don't always see how they add value. They see themselves as just like the departure point for product.
Yep.
And that's such a silly way to think about it.
Well, in a category like this especially, I think if you're selling road bikes and someone's owned 10 road bikes in their life and they kind of know what they're getting, then you can be that departure point, right? But I think there's still a level of engagement and education and awareness building, and then kind of on the long tail support that comes with this, that you guys, again, you intuit and you do really well. I'm going to take you on the road and train the rest of our retailers. But there's
it's
plenty.
Going to get way. The example. It's crazy how. The example of product. You obviously see this. Like other brands see, oh, look what Faraday's doing, and we want to have auxiliary battery packs too, or and the example. And so there's copycatting, which is sometimes kind of annoying, but sometimes it's great in the end of the day. It's inevitable.
What can I flip it around and ask you questions? What do you tell me about the future of e-bikes for you? What's out there? What are you excited about? What do you want to see?
I think the idea of auxiliary battery packs is a really good one. There's the beauty of e-bikes is that it's not necessarily like the iPhone. I don't see one thing to rule all.
No.
Because it's such a personal thing. It's more like a car.
A car's a great example, yeah.
It's you own the car that fits in your life well, that tells you, shows you who you want to be like and what you want to do, and and so that's exciting, and it's exciting on retail side. But there's some really good ideas that haven't really been explored, and I think Faraday is exploring that with the auxiliary, where you have a battery that is small and light for most trips. And then you can add an extra battery to go on the occasional, on the weekend ride.
That's exactly the idea. And I think it's again, for us, it's kind of been a long time coming, and we can't wait to get it out there. But, having an e-bike that has a built-in 100-mile range is great. But the reality is, I think 2/3 of our riders ride 12 miles or fewer per trip. 90% of trips are under 2 miles. And we, at the end of the day, there is so much opportunity to replace those trips with e-bikes. So why do that at the expense of kind of elegance and lightweight and usability and all the other things that kind of trade off?
At the same time, though, you also don't want to buy one bike for your long ride and one bike for your short ride. You want one bike to do it all, and so that's always been the one little caveat with Faraday. And many people don't care, but there's some people that do, and so this is going to just basically take that out of the running.
I'm excited even, I want to rent auxiliary batteries, so I want our retailers to have a half a dozen on hand, so that, it's a weekend ride, you want to go to Tahoe and take the bike and do a longer ride, check one out for the weekend.
That's
Dave is nodding out there.
Yeah.
Great, right? Yeah? That's great.
So yeah, and we see it working on the mountain bike side. You know, Focus mountain bikes have done that.
Great example.
And it's such a smart way to go.
I love what they talk about with that, which is that the idea there is you have that battery, you slap it on the bike, ride the bike to the trailhead, ditch it. You know, ditch your $1,000 battery beneath a tree, but still, bear with me. But then you do your ride,
Under
right?
a rock.
And that's such a cool idea, because now you're not throwing your bike on your car to drive to the trailhead. You're just kind of, it's like all in one. And I think that's a really cool use case.
So I mean, that's the one thing I think, you know, once you put a battery, we tell people this all the time. You know, some people don't understand. I tell people that most bikes are going to be electric at some point.
I mean, look at Europe. It's crazy.
Very, very soon.
Yeah.
Sooner than we think. And people say, oh, that's crazy. But the reality is, once you put a battery on board, it's not just about the assist, although the assist is very important. It's about all the other things you can do.
Yeah.
So once you have a little bit of power, you can ride further. But then there's also anti-theft, and there's integration with your phone and tracking your rides and getting rewarded when you do good work, good rides.
And I'll put in a plug for this. I mean, I was in Indianapolis last week. I gave a talk at the Places for Bike conference, which is kind of the big bike advocacy conference in the U.S. And I talked about the idea that when we market e-bikes, we get tempted to market the wrong things. We market speed and going fast and climbing hills and acceleration. All of which are awesome things about e-bike, especially in a place like the Bay, which has a lot of hills. But the thing we don't talk about nearly enough is safety.
Yeah,
and
totally.
It blows me away. 75% of our riders say they feel considerably safer on their Faraday, and frankly on any e-bike, than they did on a non-electric bike. And I think that is a profound thing for e-bikes to do.
Yeah. So, well, we're getting close to the end of our discussion here. Which was very sweet. Yeah, that was fun. Our next panel is our policy panel, which is starting at 11. But maybe, is there any questions from the audience for Adam? And obviously, like we said in the beginning, Faraday bikes are going to be here all day doing test rides. So you must, if you haven't tried one, if you sat through this discussion, you've basically agreed to trying a Faraday, so.
That legally binding?
Legally binding.
Yes, yeah.
But just right behind you, very easy. But is there any questions from the audience for Adam?
Yeah.
We're waiting to buy your bike until the app comes in.
With the app?
So there's a question about the app.
So we have a number of things that we've been kind of working on for a long time that have been on the back burner and are finally happening now. Being part of the Pawn Group. Auxiliary battery has been, I lock the engineers in the office over the weekends and don't let them leave until they make enough progress on that. So once they get that out, the app is going to be next up. So we don't, it kind of a conscious choice with the design of our bikes is we don't have sort of a heads-up display on them. Again, I think we really wanted to preserve that feeling of riding a bike and make it as intuitive and simple as possible. Super fun and exciting, but not distract you with your speedometers and watts and volts. So we don't have a display, per se, other than the little battery indicator. The app will give you the option to put your phone on there and then have a really rich, nice display to look at speed or power, volt, or other things. So that'll solve that. Will the app be, will it plug into the bike for power? Probably not for the time being, but yeah, we'll one more for the list.
Do you want to go work for Faraday?
We're hiring.
Work on the USB charge port. No, you're right.
It's a great point, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's not enough hours in the day, unfortunately, but yeah, it's a great point.
It's there, we're all about, we tell people all this, you have to sort of, when you're even picking a bike, you figure out what you're trying to optimize for, in a way. And even when you're designing a bike, I'm sure that's the same thing. If you can't do everything, and definitely can't do everything all at once, or you're gonna have a total mess on your hands. So what do you really focus on right away, because that's the most important, and I'm sure that's on your product there's plenty of product roadmaps.
Bikes are this funny thing for me, and I feel like there's probably a lot of products like this, but I think about like if I'm a restaurateur, if I make food, like you can probably make the perfect meal, right? There's probably a way, maybe it costs $1,000, but you can probably make the perfect meal. And bikes are just like, they're infinitely frustrating, but also kind of like infinitely fun because you can't, right? Everything is a trade-off and a compromise, and so it's a matter of, like you said, what problem are we solving for and figuring that out.
So that's why, if we had one bike that did it all, that's all we'd sell, and it's just not the not the world we live in at the moment, but still.
It would be a fair
We can get close.
Yeah, 90%.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Have you seen the accessory market for electric bikes? Has there been a concurrent rise in people making accessories specifically for e-bikes?
That's a great question. I mean, I'll speak to that from a brand standpoint, and you may have a perspective from a retail standpoint. So the question is, has the accessory market for e-bikes kind of changed and grown alongside the market overall? I think that for the most part, I mean, so from our perspective, our bikes are close enough to a bike that the beautiful thing is you have this great world of accessories that work really well for them. I think as things like speed e-bikes become more popular, there will probably be a kind of a need and a place around bikes or products that have kind of higher speed or safety kind of ratings. Accessories, I will say this, are fantastic. We sell tons and tons and tons of racks and bags and other kind of things because people and like nothing makes me happier than that because it tells me that people are using our bikes for the purpose we intended, which is replacing car trips and getting utility out of their bikes. So that's a huge thing.
Yeah, no, accessories are, and I think there's a lot of work to be done to really build accessories that aren't just copies, not just coming from the bike world, but coming from the e-bike world. So, specific, people ask for lock boxes on their bikes, but they need to look, there's a balancing act. You don't want it to just start looking like a beefed up, motorcycle. That's not the point. So doing it really well and elegantly, but keeping in mind that weight is not as important unless it is, but for the most part it's not as important. So you can build accessories and also comfort too, comfort accessories. Because you can optimize, like we were talking about optimizing, you can optimize for comfort instead of, because you're not the engine anymore.
You're going to make the
exclusively.
gold wing version of the Faraday?
Make what's that?
Gold wing, a Honda Gold Wing, a huge motorcycle thing now.
Yeah.
Stereo system.
Further down the list.
Yeah.
Mobile app first.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We are about to begin our policy panel. We're going to start a little later than we were thinking, but that's okay. We have plenty of time.
Good time.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you, Brett.
It's been a pleasure working with you and talking with you, of course.
Yep. Well, thanks for having us out.